Welcome to TypeScript FM, the friendly podcast for TypeScript developers where we bring you news, updates, and interviews from the community with plenty of tomfoolery sprinkled in. I'm your host, Kamran Ayub, and I'm joined by my co-host and best bud, Eric Onerheim. Together, we're the two TypeScript fools. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. How's it going, Eric?
It's going.
How's your Halloween spooky?
It was awesome. So our little one turned 2 this month.
Mm-hmm.
And in October, during spooky season.
Mm-hmm.
And Halloween is the best holiday.
It is your favorite, yeah.
Yeah, that little one, that little girl lost her mind on Halloween. She's like, you never let me run up to people's houses and they're giving me things. Yep. She did not realize that the things she was getting at the door were bits of candy until we got home. And I opened one for her. She's like, this is candy? What? And she just like had like that, you know, when kids have like too much candy, I gave her too much. That's completely my fault because she's not capable of opening them. So I was the arbiter of too much candy. And they get kind of sugar drunk where they're just like cackling and just like flopping all over. And it was so funny. It was so good.
We pretty much don't put too many guardrails on that. I think I've heard advice before, like just let your kids eat as much as they want because they'll naturally sort of like, they'll naturally not eat so much because of their, you know, they'll feel sick or whatever. But we still do a little bit of guardrails, but we let them eat throughout the week and throughout the year too. Yeah. Well, yeah, I steal it all the time because they just get so much. Like literally, my son came home and they probably hit 100 houses, and his pillowcase was like half full. It was at least like 10 pounds probably. It's like 10 pounds of candy.
It's a lot of candy.
So they don't need all that. I want some of that.
Yeah. Maeve is still a little too young for the extra gummy candy and the hard candy. I wouldn't trust her with it yet. So anything that's like soft and yielding, or chocolate, she can have.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. What else is new besides Halloween?
Well, I've been doing a lot of Patreon stuff. I've mailed some stickers to Sweden just recently. That was pretty cool. I've been doing a lot of drawing lately, getting back to my roots, doing some art. And it's mostly because Maeve she's kind of sparked this back in me because she keeps asking me to draw things for her. Because we have a whole bunch of crayons all over the house with paper. Like I have a bunch of clipboards that I stick printer paper in. And then she's always drawing.
Nice.
But now she's asking for like things. So she's like, draw Grover, draw Elmo, draw Abby. So I'm just drawing Sesame Street characters. And then I was like, oh, well, I'll just do like a quick doodle. She was like, draw Papa. And so I was like, okay, I'll draw myself. And I'm like, oh, I like this. This is going to be my new profile picture when I clean it up. So that might show up soon.
That's cool. Yeah, our kids went through that phase too. And I'm not that great at drawing stuff. But I would say that Cassie, my wife, is way better at just sort of general drawing. Like her drawings are really nice. Mine are more like sketchy. I don't know how to describe it. Mine are not that good. Hers are really good.
Real crisp.
Yeah. Hers are real crisp. Like she can keep curves really nicely and things like that, which I can't do. So
yeah. And then one of our contributors added a whole bunch of new art to our pathfinding and our sample tactics game, all like King Arthur themed. So that's Hint of Lime, first name Kyle. They've done a great job adding really cool stuff to our stuff. And they're just cranking out bangers. Just really talented. If you need an artist, bring them.
Nice. Hint of Lime.
Hint of Lime.
Hop into the Discord. Actually, I started adding a link to the Discord in the show notes. So you can just click on it. You can just tap on it and you can get to our Discord, which is like an amazing achievement here. But anyway, these are sample games for Excalibur, right? So we have it's a newish like tactics sample game. So if you I like Fire Emblem, you like Advance Wars. It's sort of like that. You can learn
it's like
how
in
to
between
turn-based.
Yeah, and they took inspiration from Fire Emblem and like did a King Arthur Fire Emblem take, and it's so good. And if you click on the show notes, it's real good. Like,
sweet.
And then, you know, what they did too is they replaced all my jank UI with lit HTML, and it's super crisp. Like, I'm going to reuse that a lot. That's so good.
Beautiful.
I know, right? It's so good. Like,
I'm looking at it right now. It's great.
Such a fantastic job. It's absolutely stupendous.
Cool. Well, should we move on to the news?
Let's move on to the news for the week of October 27th.
Halloween week. So
spooky week.
Is there a lot of spooky news this week? I don't know.
I don't really think so. I mean,
well,
depending on what you think is spooky.
Well, perhaps the most spookiest thing is that TypeScript is the most used language on GitHub. That is according to the new Octoverse report from GitHub. But TypeScript grew by over 1 million contributors in 2025. That is a 66% year-over-year growth. And they say that it's driven by frameworks that scaffold projects in TypeScript by default, which is not a surprise here, and by AI-assisted development that benefits from stricter type systems. Because it turns out that types are context, and more context is good for LLMs. And I would say more context is good for humans too. That's why I like TypeScript.
More context is more better.
Yep. Do you want to read some of the stats here?
Yeah. So what's really interesting here, they have a blurb in their blog post about why TypeScript won. You know, obviously, number one, we have a podcast about it. That's why it won. No.
Yeah.
You know, types, contracts help scale. Like we were saying, like it reduces ambiguity for humans and for LLMs. You know, you start making software because it helps you do this, and then LLM starts recommending that kind of software. So there's like kind of this snowball effect in LLM recommendations. So I'm sure that's part of it.
Yep. There is something in here that's kind of interesting of like how it's not just what humans think are useful for the languages, but also our choices may be starting to be driven by what LLMs are good at, which would be TypeScript and type systems.
They play off each other. The other thing they mention is that frameworks are just shipping with this by default. It's kind of table stakes now in the front end framework world to ship with TypeScript support. And almost everyone has that checkbox on their page, their feature page.
I mean, they list, well, what do they have here? They've got pretty much everything that we've covered, although we haven't done too much solid coverage. But Next.js, Astro, SvelteKit, Quick, Solid Start, Angular, and Remix all generate a TypeScript code base by default.
That's right. One thing that's interesting is when you have an LLM generate code, one of the tough things is this code BS or not?
Yep.
Well, type systems help understand very quickly if it's BS or not. You can find issues a lot faster earlier in the pipeline before even the compilation step. You're in the type check step.
Yep.
And I imagine that would work well for other like structurally typed, strongly typed languages where the type system gives you a lot of guarantees. But for TypeScript, this is great. This is a huge boon.
Yeah, I don't think that there is a model yet, at least that I've used, that will type check itself with the generated code, but I would predict that by next year we'll probably see that, especially when TypeScript 7 hits is my guess is when we're going to start to see that go into play.
I could be wrong, but I think you can have like agentic flows do some of this.
Yep, but I'm talking more about like I'm chatting with ChatGPT or Copilot.
I see.
You know, and I'm asking them for like a code snippet and it just generates it. And
the TypeScript MCP.
Yeah.
Where it's just it's just a thin veneer over the TypeScript language server so that it can shoot bits of code fragments at.
Yep. But I mean, just a fun fact, I was working on my course this last week, and part of it is migrating the local MCP server to Azure Functions. And the team at Microsoft created a GitHub Copilot prompt that is basically a step-by-step tutorial for the LLM to do the conversion. I've run it twice. I ran it twice. I did not have to change anything. It did I immediately ran AZD up, which is their Terraform equivalent of like setting up the infrastructure and provisioning and deploying the MCP server. It worked both times without any issues. So I would say I was really impressed because I was planning to edit it so that I had to like, the LLM's going to generate it's going to not do the right thing. I'm going to have to edit it. I'm going to have to make it look like it did the right thing and then talk about what I had to change. Didn't have to do that. It just worked both times. I was like, surprised.
Yeah, I am color me surprised. And then I think the last thing they mentioned here is that there's a low barrier to entry. Now a lot of dev tooling just comes with this support out of the box. Vite, TS Node, Bun, IDEs, including NeoVim. These things just have TypeScript LSPs available to you so that you don't have to work hard to get TypeScript stacks working quickly.
It's interesting because right here in the blog post, they're talking about TS Node, but nowadays you don't need TS Node unless you want to do a TS config, and then you would. But if you don't need a TS config and you just do the type stripping, you can just use plain old Node now. So that's even a lower barrier to entry than TS Node.
Yeah, totally. Actually, that's something that would have been maybe more interesting for them to put in the blog post.
You know what? They probably generated half this blog post with an LLM. So I pretty much can guarantee you that little thing is probably from an out-of-date model. That's my guess anyway. I'm putting on my tinfoil hat there. That's probably what it is. There's an honorable mention here. It's not TypeScript, but Godot engine is C# based, and it's a game engine, and it sits at number 5 in the top 10 open source projects. So on the leaderboard, it's number 5, a game engine amongst VS Code and like other like AI tools or IDEs or developer tools. But game engine, number 5, that's cool.
Hey, I have good news for you. If you like Godot and also like TypeScript, there is a TypeScript extension so that you can write your games in TypeScript. So I'll
cool.
add that to the show notes.
Nice.
But it does the same kind of thing that we do in Caliburn Games to ship ports, and that's using QuickJS
that's cool.
run your JavaScript. So It's very, very cool stuff. So I'll include that in the show notes.
Okay, moving on to next piece of news. If you're a Bun fan, Vercel now supports the Bun runtime. You can just say what my Bun version is, deploy and run your application on Vercel functions. So it looks like it's part of their functions runtime.
Sweet.
Pretty cool.
This next one blew my mind. I was hanging out on the ArkType Discord and a banger dropped. ArkRegex, which is a type-only package, will give you, it's a drop-in replacement for the regex, like the JavaScript regex constructor, will give you strongly typed regular expressions and editor tooling. And I might not have put enough like gravitas on type only. It's type only. It evaporates at runtime. It goes poof.
Yep. So it's not runtime code that changes how regex works. It is only types.
Yes.
Type powered. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
So you can listen to our episode with David from ArkType. It's super compelling, and he teased ArkRegex in that episode, and now it's released. So if you want some more detail on that and read some of the motivation behind it, I linked to the Reddit thread, which is where I saw it, and then linked to the Discord thread in the ArkType Discord where Eric saw it, and then the Blue Sky thread, which has a summary too of how it works. But do you want to just give like an elevator pitch? Like, why would I install this immediately?
Well, I think the reason you install this immediately is you get some really sick editor tooling. Like you get also, so one, you get sick editor tooling. 2, on the left-hand side of the regex constructor from ArkRegex, you get like a structured type of the things that come out of this regex. Like, cool. you know what this regex will parse. Like,
so if
so
I do,
cool.
This is like sort of breaking my brain. So if I have a regex that's like 0 through 9, like I want to match a number 0 through 9, plus, like what comes out in the types on the left side?
Yeah. So this is a great question. So on the left hand side, what comes out is a regex type, like a regex with a type parameter, it tells you it has like a captures. So it tells you the type of things that it captures. So like it'll be like this captures string. It captures things of the shape string.string or whatever. Here, your capture group, it'll give you a list of like your capture groups.
I mean,
so in your case for 0.9, not very exciting. I think it's more exciting for things that are like full of capture groups. And
yeah, I mean, that's what blows my mind, because I'm watching the little snippet video in the docs. And if it's capturing an email, you've got name and you've got the domain as a capture group. And so if you fat finger type the domain, it will type check it. It'll say that group doesn't exist on that type, which is wild.
Yeah,
that's super cool.
And it gives you a strongly typed tuple that comes out. And so like when you do like that match, you have like that tuple when you do a regex match. So that's what that captures is it's a tuple with all of the bits in it, which is nice.
Yeah.
Because it's always a guess for me. Whenever I'm like, is it the 0th one? Is it the first one? Is it the second one? Also, you should just probably use named capture groups, but that's just maybe neither here nor there.
Yep. That's pretty cool. So that's just a drop-in replacement. So there's no real downside to using that.
Just use it.
That's cool.
Just do it. Your life will be better.
Speaking of drop-in replacements, ? Have you heard of SafeChain?
I did see this the other day. This is something that I missed a while ago, but this article was published in July. Totally missed it. Updated in September. And the idea here is very similar to Socket.dev. So this is like, I believe the company is called Akaido. But it's the same idea as Socket.dev, where they have a like replacement for your NPM client. So the idea is that this is going to have a wrapper around NPM, NPX, Yarn that checks every package for malware before the install. Again, very similar idea to Socket.dev, just a different company. So it might be something to check out. And definitely, you should be doing something like this or Socket.dev. Because I don't know if you are, Kamran. I think we talked about this, but I am using Socket.dev.
Same here.
But this is a really interesting blog post about like real world malware that they've spotted with their tool. So really interesting stuff. Definitely give it a read.
Yep. That's pretty sweet. All right. Next up, we kind of missed this too. This was a couple weeks ago, October 7th, Biome 2.3. And so one of the biggest headliners is that it introduces full support for Vue, Svelte, and Astro, which is pretty sweet. So that means that you can use like the template tags, like TypeScript code inside script tags, as well as the CSS inside style tags in these frameworks. And the HTML template portions of these files are also parsed and formatted according to Biome's HTML formatting rules. So we've talked about Biome a few times, but Biome is both a linter and a formatter. So you can use it in JavaScript projects, and now they support those 3 new frameworks, which is pretty cool. I'm just looking through the changelog. Also looks like they added native support for Tailwind 4 too. So if you're using Tailwind, then that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I think that we've talked about this a little bit, but the broader landscape for dev tooling is looking like extremely good. Like there's a lot of like diverse tools out there all like competing, and it's all just getting really good. Speaking of diverse tools, Void Zero just had a 2025 recap, and I won't belabor Vite Plus. We've talked about Vite Plus to death, but some cool things that are in the recap is there's an official Vite documentary, which I am going to watch very soon. It's on my watch later list and on YouTube. The other thing that's really interesting is they released the first beta versions of Vite 7.2. 2 interesting features here. One is to emit a license file during build. This might be important to you, especially if you're building commercial software or you're building software where you need to report back licenses. This is kind of a thing you would either do by hand. You would hand assemble this, or you'd have another tool do this. So that's pretty cool. And they added HTTP2 when using a proxy for development server, which is nice. if you need to do that kind of thing.
Yep. And we already talked about vtest 4 in the last episode. Browser mode stable, and then there's built-in visual regression testing. But we haven't given an update lately about roll down, so maybe we do want to talk about this. One thing that's interesting is that roll down's codebase is using OXC's type-aware linting internally now. And they're saying it's not only a great way for us to dog food oxlint, but it also helps us catch more issues and improve code quality. So that's pretty cool. So the type-aware linting is coming along inside of oxlint. And then they've been doing more changes generating source maps, and it says they're doing source map generation through Rust via an own experimental magic string implementation to increase its performance, because generating source maps can be a big build performance hit. And then they've got some other enhancements, like in the next version of Rolldown, bundling will be 10% faster, and that's because they were optimizing some of the way that they do scoping internally, it looks like, with like the AST and stuff. Yeah, just going through this. JSON imports are tree shaken. So no more superfluous JSON values in your bundle, only these that you actually access without any change of code or config. That's pretty hot.
Yeah, because I, as a person that uses JSON files often as configuration.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't have to have like a moderately sized JSON file that's just hanging out and not being used, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. That was just a few days ago that they announced that. Oxlint now supports JS plugins. They are ESLint compatible, and they can be used to run existing ESLint rules in Oxlint.
That's huge.
Yeah, that's huge.
That was my big knock when they first announced it. They were like, they had a subset, and then they were like, you have to write them in Rust. But now you can write them in JavaScript, which is, I think, important for JavaScript tooling.
And guess what? They already have a plugin for TSGo. Oxlint-TSGo-lint has also been released. Strict Boolean expressions, improved diagnostics for invalid configs, and we're working to improve performance by reducing payload sizes. So they're working on that too.
Yeah, this is some wild stuff. Yeah, so definitely check this blog post out. There's a lot of really cool numbers that we kind of glossed over, but it's basically performance all the way down.
Yep. And I like this. I'm going to be keeping tabs on this, or we will, for you, because this is similar to like what Astro does with their monthly recaps. So I really like this. So Void Zero team, please keep doing this, because I like getting sort of all the ecosystem news right there with what's going on in ViteLand.
Totally.
Sweet. How about some community highlights?
Let's do it. So friend of the show, first up, Josh Goldberg is looking for full-time employment. So if you are looking for a staff level TypeScript web developer, hit him up. He's looking for a full-time job.
Yeah, I think what's cool about this is that, so he was doing full-time open source for about 3 years, including when we interviewed him not long ago, and he's accomplished pretty much all of his goals that he wanted to do during that time. So now he's open for business. You should snap him up while he's on the market. So the other funny thing is that for Halloween, it looks like Josh was Tinky Winky.
Yep.
From the Teletubbies.
It's a great fit. I think the Teletubby fit it's great.
By the way, his display name on LinkedIn and on Blue Sky last week was Josh Goldberg. I
love it.
Yep. Hey, you use Angular. I thought that you might have heard of this, but in case you haven't, I'd never heard of this. This is a metaframework that's built on top of Angular, and it's called Analog. And they just announced a 2.0 version. So it looks like it's powered by Vite and also Nitro, an open source server engine framework, which this would be like any kind of other meta framework for JavaScript or React. So like similar to like Next.js for React, this is Analog for Angular. So it's got first-class support for the Vite ecosystem. That includes vtest, Playwright, Storybook, and more. File system-based routing, so similar to like Next.js. Support for Markdown pages and blogs. Support for API and server routes. And then hybrid SSR, SSG, which is static site generation and server-side rendering. With sitemap and RSS feed supports, and supports the Angular CLI and NX workspaces. So very like meta framework and stuff, which is pretty cool.
Yo, this is really cool. I'm going to have to check this out.
So next up, we have PHP and JS. Wait, What? This is okay. So this is a library called Rendu, and it is a hypertext preprocessor for JavaScript. And the best way to kind of describe it is like old school PHP and like classic ASP, which is what I started with when I started development, where like you can intersperse your JavaScript with like server-side expressions to like change the control flow and stuff like that.
Yeah. Remember run at server?
Yeah.
Well, they have script server.
Yep.
So you can run your JavaScript on the server.
Just to give you kind of an idea here, you can use a script server to execute JavaScript on the server where it appears. And then you can use mustache style like handlebars expressions for HTML escaped output, or like a PHP style $equals expression for unescaped or raw output. And then you can use that PHP style structure also for a JavaScript control flow. So basically you got like your index.html, or I don't know what you would call it here. It's not really .html, but whatever you want to call it. And you put it through Rendu, and the output is, whatever the JavaScript in the HTML says it should be. So it's like it just runs through. So very much like old school development, which is kind of interesting and cool.
They have kind of classic PHP objects: $request, $method, $URL, $headers, $response, $cookies. So like if you remember doing PHP, or classic ASP, it looks very similar. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm going to add a caveat. At the top of their README, they say this is an experimental POC. So
yes.
Maybe don't throw this into production quite yet.
Yes. So this came out at the top of October, like October 8th or so. But this last week, Alexander Lichter did a YouTube video on it. So I would just direct you to that, to like, if you're like, your mind is still like, what are they talking about? You should go take a look at the YouTube video.
Speaking of cool runtimes, have you heard of Elide.dev?
No,
I hadn't either until this last week. This has gone under the radar for me. But what's really cool here is you can import Python files from TypeScript.
This is like, both of these things are like breaking my brain right now. Both the Rendu thing and then Elide. So before the show, I did take a look at this. So I guess I technically lied when I answered you just now. I did hear about Elide, but I did not heard about it until you told me about it. But that's exactly what he just said is exactly what it does. So like you have your .python file, you have your def add method, your calculator add two numbers method. In your freaking TypeScript file, you can import from that .py file and run that code as a as a TypeScript function.
Yeah, it's
with types.
Absolutely wild. And it's not just TypeScript and Python and JavaScript. You can do WASM. They have announced that Ruby and other JVM languages and LLVM like Swift, C++, and Rust are on the way.
Huh?
The idea, like this is kind of like the Ubermensch runtime.
Yeah, well, it's like a polyglot runtime.
Yeah, it's like Supernode.
So you can like code in whatever you want, any of those languages, and they can interop with each other. And this is like an even more sophisticated version of my POC, which was to run .NET SSR with Node.js. But it works very similarly because they built it on top of a Java virtual machine. What is it called? Graal or Grail?
You know what? I think
it's
either would take a pass. It would get a pass from me.
It's spelled Graal. To me, that spells Graal, like an orc captain in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, let's go with that.
So that's how I would say it. But it's built on Java, and it's really, really fast. Like it's as fast as like Dino. It's a little slower on the cold start, but it still does like a JIT compiler, and then once it's heated up, it's faster than Dino. I think in their performance stuff they were saying it's like 2 milliseconds or something, and Dino's like 3 or 4. So we're talking less than 5 milliseconds, but that's really, really fast. Their little tagline is, "It can run TypeScript faster than Node can run JavaScript,"
which is absolutely a wild claim. But I think to understand how they're doing it is to understand how GraalVM is working here. What they're doing is they are using Truffle to treat languages as dialects of a shared backend, which is Graal. And this is just a bytecode, an optimizing compiler for a bytecode in GraalVM. And so what they can do is all languages are equivalent to GraalVM. So that's how they can do this. Mm-hmm. What's wild is that all of these languages have one garbage compiler. So like you can have references that start in Python and end in JavaScript.
Yeah, that is wild.
Which is absolutely wild. So that's how they're able to do this absolutely bonkers thing, is like it all is the same bytecode at the end of the day. And they just implement a truffle dialect for Python, for TypeScript, for whatever. And they run their optimizing compiler against it. Mm-hmm. Absolutely mind-blowing. I don't know why I hadn't heard of this yet, but this is something I need to try.
Yeah, I think it needs more marketing because this is pretty impressive.
Yeah, this is the zonkers.
All right, let's move on to some tool watches and library watches. What did you come across this week?
This one was really cool. This was one of our contributors on the Discord. One of our members was having trouble with circular dependencies, and one of our contributors, Daria, whipped out this tool that I hadn't heard of called dpdm, which I have no idea what it stands for. Detect circular dependencies in your TypeScript projects. That doesn't help me. I don't know what dpdm stands for, but this is super slick. If you've ever run into like a circular dependency in a huge project, tracking it down is awful.
Huh?
I had one in Excalibur, and it would confound bundlers every once in a while. Like, depending on the order that the bundler decided, it would bomb, because obviously it can't bundle a circular dependency. Like, what's it going to do? So like something has to come first. So this is a really slick tool if you need to go and do static analysis of your TypeScript or JavaScript code base. It does a few other things in addition to helping you find circular dependencies. But yeah, definitely check it out.
That's cool. I love that. So it gives you a nice little report of like, here's where you're doing something bad and you got to fix it.
Yeah. This is super great.
Love it.
Yeah, definitely. This is a tool with a very specific use. But if you have this problem, this will save you a lot of time.
Noise. I came across something that you might find interesting because you were talking about wanting to build like a saga type thing at work, like workflows. Mm-hmm. And something like Effect.ts could be something you take a look at, but there's a lot of features there. If you're looking for something super lightweight, there is a new library called flowcraft, and it is a TypeScript-based workflow engine. And so you can take a look at the code in there, but it is fairly simple, but they've got the constructs that you need to build workflows. So you can like create your flow, you can add nodes to it, you can create edges. So it sort of works with like a node and edges type of concept. And they talk about the core concepts. But once you set that up, you can do retries, you can do fallbacks, and it is quite simple looking, which is pretty cool. And they've got some like tooling and utilities also. So like they've got a linter utility, which lets you statically analyze your blueprints to find errors such as orphan nodes, invalid edges, or nodes with missing implementations. And they even have a diagram generation, so they can automatically generate mermaid syntax from your workflow structure, which is pretty sweet to me.
Yeah. What's really interesting here is they have a little note where you can implement this workflow for running across multiple machines. So you have official adapters for AWS, GCP, Azure, RabbitMQ, Kafka. But you can also implement your own base distributed adapter and go to town, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, this looks nice and extensible. They've got loggers, evaluators, serializers, and middleware for custom behavior. And of course, it's fully typed with TypeScript. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, go check that out if you're looking for something lightweight.
Speaking of workflow engines, there's another one that came across my desk.
Ooh.
Trigger.dev, build and deploy fully managed AI agents and workflows. And I'm not super hot on the AI agent thing, but the thing that's really interesting is their workflows are really nice looking. Like, I looked at their retry syntax and their concurrency syntax in their example, and it's just real nice. It's just extremely nice. It's super clear. I don't know if you've ever tried to do retries in like ArkRegex and then pulled out all of your hair, but this is not that. So this looks really cool. They have, this is on the more SaaS side of things. They have like a free tier, hobby tier, and a pro tier, but seems extremely interesting. It is open source. The core is open source. Let's pull up the license because I think that would be interesting. Apache 2. Very cool. But you can have the hosted thing or you can run it yourself.
Yeah. So you can tell that it's like designed for agentic workflows, but you can also just use the workflows API to like build your own async. Like it's just an async workflow engine. So you don't have to use like all the stuff, but they do have examples of like doing a pipeline to make images from PDFs or to do semantic search or to create an AI agent or do video processing. But yeah, it looks like they have a lot of tools. So I think pretty similar to like Effect TS. So just another alternative that might be a good fit.
Yeah. Super cool stuff.
Yeah.
I'm really into workflow stuff lately.
It's funny how workflows are now the hot thing because I mean, workflow engines have just been around ever since we've been in our careers. Do you remember like not NHibernate, but what was it? Oh, like N Service Bus and like things like that.
Yep.
Managing
sagas. Well, you know, in this world of clouds that can go down, US East 1, having a way of doing sagas across distributed systems, durable sagas, is maybe a good idea.
Hey, we got some jokes for closing out the community highlight section.
Yeah, this one is from Blue Sky user Annie Sexton, who has a picture of classic Scooby-Doo Velma looking for her glasses, and the caption is, my types, I can't see without my types. Which I thought was hilarious. I enjoyed that thoroughly.
That's really funny. We actually do have a secret of the handbook segment, but it's actually not from us today. I found two things that I thought were pretty cool. First was a really quick tip. This is from Fabi.dev. Eric, without looking, do you know the difference between a double bar and a double question mark syntax in TypeScript and JavaScript?
I do, because I've been bitten by this a lot.
So what is the difference if I say something double bar, whatever, my fallback value, or if I replace that with like a question mark, double question mark, the null coalescing operator.
Before we had the null coalescing operator, the double bar was the poor person's null coalescing operator.
Because it just means or.
Yeah, that's right. It would basically relied on the fact that or would short circuit. So anything as you're evaluating from left to right that's truthy would be the result of the or expression. There you go. And that's how you did it. But that comes with some like not so good things, especially if you want your null coalesce, poor person's null coalesce to use 0, because that's falsy. So you can never do like 0 or something.
Or -1.
Or -1. It just won't. You'll just always get -1.
Or empty string?
Or yeah, because that's falsy. Empty strings are falsy. So that
empty
one's also
string, 0, -1, null, undefined. These are all like falsy values. So the false expression part of your statement will be evaluated sometimes when you don't want it to be. That's why the null coalescing operator was introduced in JavaScript, and that will only go to your null statement when the value is null or undefined.
Yep. And I do still use the or thingy, but in very specific situations where I'm looking for performance, because a null coalesce, if I remember right, is not as efficient as the double or.
Okay.
But that could just be some superstition.
Yeah.
I should probably test that.
Hopefully it'll be something. I mean, what's nice is when you're relying on like the native stuff. It'll hopefully will just get optimized behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I would
test
probably avoid the double bar as that's a thing we don't need to do anymore.
Right. As a rule of thumb, lean on the null coalescing and not the double bar.
That's right.
Okay, the other tip was the infer keyword in TypeScript, which you can use with mapped typed expressions. I have used the infer keyword. I could probably count on one hand, like how many times I've used it. So even I am not an expert on it, but this is written by GeoDev.me, and they said it's one of their first blog posts on TypeScript. So I would say, just reading through it, that they did a great job because it explains exactly what infer does and like when to use it and some of the use cases. I'm not going to enumerate every use case so that you actually do read the blog post, but for example, extracting the element type from an array, extracting the return type of a function. So it's really good for like extracting inner type arguments. So that's what you'd want to use infer for.
I'd almost like in your mind take the infer keyword and replace it with the word extract, because that's more what it's doing. Like you're yanking a type from deep in a deep in another type.
Sure. Yep. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Cool. So you can go check those out for secrets of the handbook. Cool links. You come across some cool links?
I have a lot of cool links. I watch a lot of YouTube. So all my cool links are YouTube today. And I think the first one that I think everyone should go and check out is the 10 useful CLI apps you've never heard of, which the one that I'm gonna be using like for everything is called Grex. It's Grex. And it will like regress like a regular expression for you if you give it examples. Like so you have a product person that's like, you're like, okay, give me all the examples of things that you can get in this input. And you make them give you a text file. You can pass it to Grex and it'll spit out the regular expression that gets you all of those.
That's cool.
And so it's really a thing. There's a whole bunch more in this video. You should go watch it. But Grex, wow, that is the one that I am going to be using for
cool
for stuff like tomorrow. Like it's really sick. The other one that was really cool is the folks at DevTools FM just had Oliver on their podcast, the creator of Porffor. And if you're not familiar, Porffor is an ambitious project to make an ahead-of-time compiler for JavaScript.
An AOT compiler.
An AOT compiler for JavaScript.
What just for those of us, including me, what is the benefit of an AOT compiler versus a just-in-time compiler?
This is a fantastic question. So typically for JavaScript, you're running a JIT. So a JIT is what is known as a just-in-time compiler. So what happens in JavaScript, I'm going to apply an extreme simplification.
That's perfect for me.
So what happens is typically you're interpreting JavaScript bytecode. The browser, V8, whatever, what have you, decides like, oh, this code is being run a lot. We should go and pick a section, a hot section, and swap it out with machine code.
Cool.
This is the just-in-time part of the just-in-time compiler.
I see that you're doing this thing over here lots and lots and lots of times in a loop. I'm just going to cache that or do whatever I need to do to make that part fast for you so that you can keep doing that.
Yeah.
But I imagine that there's a downside there where if you're doing lots of different things where it can't detect that type of pattern, then you're not going to get perf improvements on that.
Yeah. So it relies on a lot of assumptions, especially in JavaScript. Like the JIT compiler has to make assumptions about your code, and JavaScript has extremely dynamic behavior. So it relies on monomorphisms, which is just a fancy way of saying it's things that are the same shape and same behavior. So as long as the code takes the same shape data and behaves the same most of the time, it can do a JIT optimization. When you don't, like you suddenly do something different, you pass a function a different shape, you might hit a deopt path where you bounce back into interpreted land. and then you take like a screeching halt.
Okay.
So
that makes total sense to me. Okay. So then what does an ahead of time compiler do then?
Ahead of time compiler does not have any interpreted component to it. So like a C compiler, that's an ahead of time compiler. So you're running your program through a compiler and it produces a binary that you can run on your machine.
Okay.
Which is extremely attractive for JavaScript.
That's like the next generation of JavaScript would be that, right? Like that's the next performance frontier that we would need to hit.
Boldly go.
It seems like the AOT compiler would be the next gen performance frontier for JavaScript is what it sounds like.
Definitely check out his video. There are a lot of challenges to figure out because JavaScript is a thing. Part of what he's doing is he's saying, well, I'm not going to support the wild stuff that you can do in JavaScript. So like no eval, right?
Yeah.
Because how would you do that in a AOT way? There's no way. So it's still a work in progress. It still does not pass all of test 262, which is the test suite to be like, oh, this is JavaScript.
This is a viable runtime. Yeah.
So, but it's an extremely cool thing. So definitely check it out. Definitely go take a look at Porffor.dev.
That's cool.
It's really neat.
I'll have to take a look at it and educate myself about ahead of time.
And my last one is the Ladybird browser update.
Yeah.
They dropped a banger.
Ooh.
This last one.
Can I finally switch?
They have Windows support.
So
it's not
I could
official.
switch. So I could switch.
But I don't think so.
And still in development, right?
Yeah, it's still in development. I think they're launching an alpha or beta. Apologies. Don't remember next year. But if you would like, you can build it from source and then play with it.
Nice. I'll be watching that space. Yeah, that's cool. I've got a couple cool things. First is a really funny Devtools extension for your browser called Gimli Tailwind, and I have no idea why it's Gimli. Maybe it's like, and you have my axe, like for Tailwind, because it's a Tailwind dev extension. And what's cool about it is that you can use it so that you never have to remember utility classes again. Like it lets you search for and find and organizes all the utility classes for you, so you can easily like do it in the browser and prototype it and stuff. And then, put it into your project. I don't use a ton of Tailwind, but I have in the past. And that's always for me, because I don't use it like daily. So I'm not a daily user of Tailwind. Sometimes I can't remember what the utility classes are. So I'm always in the docs, like trying to type in like, how do I do a font color of that? And I like it because I like utility CSS because of the end result, which is very low CSS bundle size, extremely low. But the downside is that my brain just can't remember utility classes. Next up, you've been doing research into sagas and workflow engines. I have been doing some research into sync engines because for my app, for Keep Track My Games, I really think that a local first architecture, or at least an offline first architecture, is a really good idea for the user experience. I think it would really improve it quite a bit. The thing is that there's a small set of players in the sync engine space because local first is not a common architecture. But I found one called PowerSync, and to me, it looks like the most promising for my use case. So the way it works is that it has a SQLite database that runs alongside the app. So it's an in-app database, and it has a sync engine that runs on the server. And what's cool about it is that for some of these sync engines, they will just take control of your database, where like you have a write operation and it just writes directly to your DB. What I like about their design architecture is that one of their design goals was that the database should remain the source of truth and remain untouched by the sync engine. So I, as the app developer, implement all business logic to actually take operations from the sync engine and write them to my database. And the other cool thing about that is that they can more easily write abstractions for different databases. So they support Postgres out of the box. That's what they natively built it for. But they've recently added MySQL support, and they have support for MongoDB, which is a NoSQL database, which means that I could maybe add support for RavenDB, which is another NoSQL database, and that's the one I use. And the best part is that their sync engine is written all in TypeScript, and it's open source. And it has the functional source license, which means you can fork it and you can improve it. You can use it for your internal use, but you can also propose improvements back to the core engine. So if I have a summer project that's like, let's make a RavenDB module for this thing, and I can contribute it back, this could definitely be what I go with for the next iteration of the front end for Keep Track My Games. So anyway, I thought that was cool because it looks real slick.
Oh, this is cool. Yeah, I'm definitely going to check this out. This is really neat.
Yeah. So what are your takeaways after all this stuff?
Well, I think my takeaway is
TypeScript ain't going anywhere. That's my.
I think it's TypeScript all the way down.
Yeah, TypeScript. It's TypeScript all the way down. It's types all the way down.
Also use ArkRegex. It's just types. It's just types.
Yep. We're gonna get types in our regex. We've got types in our frameworks by default. We've got LLMs trying to write type-safe code and work better when there's types there.
Peanut butter and chocolate.
The tool chain for TypeScript is improving rapidly. I mean, once Oxlint comes around with type-aware linting natively in Rust, I mean, game over.
Mm-hmm.
For that, I mean, there's just a lot of really cool stuff that's happening. And then the stuff with like Elide.dev for doing this like interop between different languages in TypeScript. Like, that's very like frontier to me as far as like runtimes go. Because remember, I've said before that if like Dino could do like native speed with TypeScript, man, that would be cool. And then you add on to that the ability to like, hey, look, we can interop with any backend that you're using. You can write it in Rust. You can write it in Go. You can write it in .NET. It just works. You can use your TypeScript code, and it runs through Truffle and Graal, and it just works, and they can interop with each other. I mean, that's probably far future stuff. Like, I don't even know how that would work, but it just makes me think of that, of like TypeScript being able to run everywhere.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I'm really impressed with the numbers that they're putting up in Elide.dev. Like, it's extremely, extremely cool.
Yeah, well, it's going on our watch list for sure. So you can be sure, dear listener, that if there's new developments there, that we'll share them. But yeah, I think that those are my thoughts on today's episode.
Yeah.
Sound good?
I think that's I don't have anything to add. I think that's
sweet.
It's really dope.
Cool.
I'm excited.
Well, keep on keeping up, TypeScript community, because we won in 2025.
TypeScript won. Y'all won. Good job. Pat yourself on the back.
All right. Cool. Well, we'll see you next week.
See you next
Bye-bye.
week. Bye.
Hi, everyone. This is Kamran. I just wanted to thank you for listening to the show, and we hope you enjoyed the episode. If you want to see the show notes, you can check your podcast player or go to TypeScript.fm, where you'll see a list of all the episodes. If you enjoyed the show, tell your friends, and please rate it on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, because that's how the show grows and gets discovered by more people. If you want to suggest news or a project that should be covered, or just want to say hi, email us at feedback@typescript.fm. If you want to follow us on social, we're both active on Blue Sky. I'm at kamronigus.com, and Eric is at ericonerheim.com. You can also follow the show directly at typescript.fm.